Hey, I'm Bill Rice, and I help founders and startups build go-to-market strategies so you can focus on building exceptional products and services. And today, I want to talk about how to create and use a Sparkfile. To me, this has been one of the biggest force multipliers in my sales and marketing effort, creating all kinds of ideas and a consistent repository just flowing with ideas for emails, for outreach, for blog post and content, for SEO purposes, playbooks and ebooks, video content, and those sorts of things. So learning and understanding what a Sparkfile is and how to use it effectively will have a ton of advantages, particularly for you as a founder or an early stage startup that's just trying to get the most from your resources. Your Sparkfile can be one of your most valuable assets. So let's jump into how I create and use this Sparkfile. So first and foremost, I want to make it as easy as possible to capture those ideas. Hey, if you've enjoyed this and you want more LinkedIn lead generation tactics from me, I encourage you to like and subscribe to this channel. And of course, if you're focusing on building a product and a service, why don't you leave the demand generation to us? Most of us as entrepreneurs and founders are just constantly flowing with ideas. We're always thinking about things. We're looking at the world, or we're looking at other businesses or things that we're doing and activities we're involved with. It we could just improve, or we think that there should be a thing like this, or again, it's just sort of an inventor's mindset, but again, just filled full of ideas. So it's important to make sure, for a couple of different reasons, that you have a quick and easy way to offload that idea. One, it'll keep you focused on what you're actually doing right now, and it'll also declutter all of those anxieties and things that you think you should be thinking about, but it's just really your brain sort of in hyper mode, right? And so by taking these ideas, offloading them, it gives you the confidence that, hey, those ideas are captured and you can go back to them later, but keeps your brain sort of empty and focused on what you're trying to accomplish immediately. So how do we make this easy? A couple suggestions that I have: Apple Notes. It's on your phone, and it's always available to you to jot in whatever that note is. You can talk to Siri and tell your AI assistant there to log that note. Is a great way. Some people use voice memos in a similar way. Some people just use the simple, easy notebook, right? Field notes or something small that you can always make sure that you have available to you can be useful. I personally use Notion, and there's a lot of similar sort of systems like that, Obsidian, Evernote, but whatever that is, that can be a great alternative as well. One of the key reasons that I use Notion is just the ability for me to create a database so that I can move things around, that I can add multimedia videos and notes, and I can use AI. I can categorize things. Again, a tool like Notion gives me some extra features in there that are super useful. Okay, number two, as far as actually creating this Sparkfile, it's really important how you kind of store away that idea. My preference is to take that spark or that idea and actually store it as a prompt, right? So I'm thinking, and I'm using more and more AI, things like ChatGPT. So I just kind of am naturally thinking more often in prompts. And I think it also helps us to answer a prompt versus just putting down an idea. So for instance, if I was saying how to create and use a Sparkfile, that might be an idea. But if I were to put, I want to explain to founders and early stage entrepreneurs how to actually create their Sparkfile and to use it effectively in their sales and marketing efforts, how would I do that, right? So again, creating a little bit more of a prompt. The other reason to kind of do it as a prompt, and I'll kind of show you this later, but it also helps me to kind of jump in and use it, because that prompt will get me started more effectively than a title, because it's generally asking me a question, or it's asking me to do something, much like I would be asking AI to do something or to create something. So again, don't want to dwell too long on that, but I like to store that idea as a prompt, something that I want to do, or I want to tell myself to do and create in the future. And then once I've laid down that prompt, I want to give it some seed. I don't want to just leave it there as a title or as a prompt. I want to get it started in some way that gives me an indicator of kind of where I'm going, or where I was headed, or what I was thinking about when I created the original prompt. Blank pages are, of course, killers. Just something simple as bullet points, or maybe an outline, or even take to ChatGPT and your AI, whatever your favorite AI assistant is, and ask it to create an outline using this idea, or maybe even do an initial rough draft and then store that inside of that note, which is inside of your Sparkfile. The fourth kind of step in creating this Sparkfile, or thing that you need to think about in creating the Sparkfile, is ideally you want to use a system that allows you to categorize or look at it through various views, right? You can do this in your notebook. A lot of people, like in bullet journaling and that sort of thing, have this tendency to kind of dump out some ideas and then they'll rewrite them and organize them, and that's useful. So you can do this in an analog way, you can do it in a digital way, but I do advocate this process. So there's a couple reasons for that. One, it helps you to fit into, and if you've watch some of my other videos, I'm constantly talking about creating a constrained content framework when you're building content or you're doing sales and marketing materials for your early stage startup, so that you kind of create some density around that expertise or that thing that you do. Again, so categorization and starting to shape these things into some density around specific topics that you want to own or you want to attach your product and service to in the marketplace can be really helpful. Again, this is why I use Notion database, because it allows me to kind of mix and match. I can create the Sparkfile in one place, but I can actually create multiple views so that I can look at everything in there in different ways. Having said all that, however, don't discount the opportunity and the advantage of just serendipity, right? So even just a simple list on a piece of paper or in your Apple Notes, and just sort of scanning through that from time to time can be just as helpful as over categorizing, or worse, procrastinating by thinking that you need to categorize or prepare things. Okay, now we're going to jump into how to actually use that Sparkfile. So now we've got a list, or we've got a database of all these different ideas. How do we actually leverage that into our sales and marketing program? So first and foremost, whenever I do schedule a writing session, I'm going to pop open that Sparkfile. Sometimes I've prepped that writing session, so I already know what I'm writing about. But if I don't, or potentially I'm preparing for a future writing session, my Sparkfile is the first place that I start. I pop that open, and again, depending on your organization level, could be turned into an editorial calendar and that sort of thing. But as an early stage founder or startup, you probably don't have time for that. So again, when I start my writing session or I'm preparing for a writing session, I'm going to pop that Sparkfile open, and that's going to be the first thing that I do. And then I'm going to scan down through that Sparkfile, and when I find a prompt that I think is interesting, or I think one that would be particularly powerful or insightful for my ICP, then I'm going to pick that out. And again, this is where the advantage of writing it in the form of a prompt helps, because you're going to now, once you selected that, you're going to force yourself to write some level of finished piece before you step away from your desk, right? And so when I say that, one of the mental things that I like to do when I pick out that prompt is I like to envision it, and again, this is where a prompt helps over just like a title or just a really random idea. If it is a prompt, I envision that as a client email that has come to me and asked me to do something. And whenever you get a client email, it creates a sense of urgency, and you're going to get to some response as quickly and as thoroughly as possible. So a lot of times I think of my Sparkfile prompt as just an email from a client. So I have to sit down and I have to pound out a response to that. So it gives me a sense of urgency. And it also, using that frame of reference, it really, a client email is my ICP, right? So in this case, they're a client, but I want to talk to more people like that. So by sort of putting a frame around that as, hey, I'm writing a response to a client email, that piece of content is going to be perfectly written and positioned for my ICP. It's going to be a quality piece of sales and marketing material. Number 3, I'm going to create a messy first draft. Like I said, I'm not going to let myself leave my desk until I have some form of finished work. So I'm going to let it be messy, and I'm going to get that draft done. And then this has become my typical workflow now, I'm going to then clean that up with ChatGPT or your favorite AI assistant. And consistently, I like to use a prompt like this for my messy first draft, is something along the lines of keep my tone and style, but rewrite it to make it better. So this will keep intact like my personality inside of that first messy draft, but it will clean it up, tighten it up, get the grammar right, get all the spelling right and that sort of thing, so it can be a real accelerator without losing your voice and tone and your originality on your perspective. So I always say when you're talking about ChatGPT or AI assistants, don't have it do your homework, have it do part of your workflow. So you're essentially using ChatGPT to skip a step in editing, and most of us hate editing. So it'll give us our first round of editing. ChatGPT can do that hard work for us and push us through to the next steps, which are publishing. We're going to, when we're done with that, we're going to publish it somewhere. It doesn't matter particularly where, but I'm not going to, again, my writing session is not over until I have actually published it, because if not, you wind up in this situation that I've seen so many founders and early stage startup folks in, is they've got a massive repository of half-finished content sitting in Google Drive somewhere, and that doesn't do anybody any good. It doesn't do your audience any good, doesn't do your ICP any good, and it certainly doesn't do you and your startup any good. So I'm going to publish that somewhere. It could be Twitter/X, LinkedIn, it could be Medium. Ideally, especially as you're starting, you're going to be publishing on someone else's platform because the audience is there and you're just attracting them to you with that content that you're publishing. And then the second thing I encourage is to publish via video. So this could be a podcast with a video element. It could be going straight to YouTube as video and shorts, or it could be going to LinkedIn as a short. LinkedIn is doing more and more powerful things with video. I think that if you want to be an early adopter on something that's going to have some real legs and going to catapult a lot of people into a kind of a new influencer category, I would be doing video for LinkedIn. And then last but not least, reuse that. One of the reasons that I have a Sparkfile and it's persistent is I will write on the same topic and I will create video on the same topic over and over again, because each time I get better, and as time moves I get smarter, and so that new content, not only does it continue to create density, it allows me to own that particular topic or subject matter, but each time I do it, ultimately it will get better and it will resonate more with my ICP and my audience, and continue to grow and introduce new people to what I'm doing with my startup. Hey, if you've enjoyed this and you want more LinkedIn lead generation tactics from me, I encourage you to like and subscribe to this channel. And of course, if you're focusing on building a product and a service, why don't you leave the demand generation to us? Visit BillRiceStrategy.com, and we would love to help you out. So looking forward to seeing you on our next lead generation video.